Hello, welcome to Live at Lunch. Tricked you. I'm here slightly later than usual, but that's okay because I can see a few more of you watching here, and a lot of you watched just after I finished going live for whatever reason. So thought I'd catch you by surprise this afternoon. Now, what was on that thumbnail? What was on that thumbnail, do you reckon? My breakfast this morning, perhaps. Great way to kickstart the day. But this is Live at Lunch. Maybe it's my lunch. Sometimes I do like lunch, breakfast for lunch. Do you ever do that? Now, we are talking about belief today. Now, if you're tuning in, I'm guessing that you're interested in this topic of belief. Maybe you just were interested in what I had to say about it. But is belief a positive or a negative thing? What has your experience been? What do you think of? What's the first thing you think of? Perhaps when you think of the word belief, maybe religious belief. Now, whether you're religious or not, I think we all have beliefs that are at the core of who we are, beliefs that we would stand up for, that drive our actions, that we might not think about consciously, but really are behind everything we do. So you might believe, for example, that it is important to earn your own way in the world, and therefore you have a full-time job. You might believe that caring for the environment is important. Therefore, you recycle. You recycle even those tricky plastic bags that you have to take in separately. So our beliefs do impact the way we live. Sometimes, though, belief can turn ugly. You might have seen that we're sometimes just fine with it if people keep it to themselves. What about when people go public with their beliefs? Sometimes we can bring to mind things like the wars we see in the world, violence, sort of not accepting other beliefs. It can turn ugly. And I think it's expressed in these lyrics by John Mayer. Belief is a beautiful armor, but makes for the heaviest sword, like punching underwater. And then he goes on to say, we're never going to win the world. We're never going to stop the war. We're never going to beat this if belief is what we're fighting for. You never can hit who you're trying for. What is he saying? What is he saying here? I think he's trying to get at the fact that belief can be great. When hard times come against us, we can sort of get into what we believe and rely on it and use it to get through tough times. I think he's also saying that when we use it as a sword, when we go out and fight for our beliefs, we often miss the target. It's heavy and clumsy. We end up hurting people, even if we have good intentions. For some reason, when we go sort of looking at putting our beliefs on others, people get hurt. Do you agree with that? What are your opinions on belief? Now, let's have a look at another perspective on belief. And you might have heard this before, you may not have, but please read this with me. This is Jesus speaking. He says, "For this is how God loved the world. He gave his one and only Son so that everyone who believes in him will not perish, die, but have eternal life. God sent his Son into the world not to judge the world, but to save the world through him." How is this belief different to the type of belief we might be familiar with? Well, let's have a look at it. So we see this belief is motivated by love. It's a loving act that God sends his only Son into the world. And what does it do? What does it achieve? It saves. God sent his Son into the world to save the world, not to judge it. So this belief, this Christian belief should be something that saves rather than brings judgment. And I wonder why sometimes that gets flipped around. It seems very judgmental at times, not very loving. Now, I think part of it is that we must allow what we believe, and what we believe is important, what we believe to change us. It's no good going out and sharing our beliefs with people when we haven't really allowed them to change us. If we believe in a loving God, that belief should change us into loving people and accepting people, people that listen to others, are not forcing things on others. Now, if we look at these verses in context, Jesus is talking to a religious leader who didn't understand these things. This guy called Nicodemus. And what is he? Jesus is telling Nicodemus about being born again. Something a bit out there, okay? Something that Nicodemus, this religious leader, quite smart guy, found it hard to understand. And Nicodemus said to Jesus, how are these things possible? And I think there's an element of mystery in belief that is good. In believing something out of our control, believing something that we can't quite fully grasp. We can't manipulate, we can't sort of direct, something that we just have to take, even though it seems strange, on belief. And I think that's a humbling kind of belief, a belief that I think is quite attractive, a belief that we only begin to know and trust when we believe it. I'm going a bit dark there. It's the downside of natural lighting, I guess. But belief, what are your experiences? I'd be interested to know in the comments. Thank you for watching this. Please consider where your views on belief might line up with either of these pictures, and consider really what is it you believe and why is it important to you. I'd love to interact with you further, but for now,